We are just 2 weeks away from a major national milestone, America turning 250 years old. That's 250 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And if you've ever seen the musical Hamilton, you know at least one part of the Declaration by heart. I won't sing it. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
I think you were supposed to sing it, or at least speak it
you've
rhythmically.
Set me up for that.
All right, we tried. But of course, there's a lot more to our country's history than the line of a musical. And here to tell us all about it is host of the podcast, History That Doesn't Suck, Professor Greg Jackson. He's also Utah Valley University Center for Constitutional Studies professor on America 250. And he wrote a new book called Been There, Done That, How Our History Shows What We Can Overcome. And if that wasn't enough, he also has an upcoming PBS special that involves a full orchestra and you playing a guitar. Now, you are here without your guitar today.
Sans guitar.
We are still excited to have you.
Yes.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the forgiveness. We will make that happen next time. I understand, David, you played the violin.
Fiddle, yes.
Perfect. Because the melody line of my theme song is usually played by the violin. So we're going to get you that sheet music in advance.
We'll make it happen.
All right, so talk to me about the melody line, the through line of American history as you look at it in your book. You say there are common things that, history echoes and it repeats, and things that are relevant to folks who may look at America right now and think, maybe we're not doing so well.
Absolutely. I like the way Mark Twain is alleged to have put it, which is not that history repeats itself, but that it rhymes. Okay. So in my book, I look at contested elections, which we had plenty of them, political violence, and fake news. Fake news going all the way back to the printing press of Benjamin Franklin. So we go from the 1790s up to 1900. I purposely avoid the 20th century to really highlight that this stuff's old. And we're looking into some of the deepest, darkest abysses of American history. But here's where it gets hopeful. My point is that these are things that the American Republic has endured, that we've not only overcome so completely that we stuck around, but that I have to write a book to remind you it even happened.
Talk to us about, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you mentioned election interference and kind of the path that we've been down in the past when it comes to that. I mean, we're looking ahead to an election where I think there's a lot of fear that it will be contested, there'll be legal maneuvering, people worried about sort of how it's all going to play out. Yeah. Take us back to the 19th century. This is something we've dealt with before.
Yes, so the finest example, the most corrupt election, I will tell you, and I claim it in my book, the most corrupt election in American history to date is the election of 1876. A contested election that led to investigation into 4 states, and what we learned is that hundreds of black voters were murdered, beyond others that were, convinced not to vote, shall we say. Accusations of bribes, attempts of bribes. South Carolina somehow managed to cast 101% of its vote.
Sure.
Humanities guy, but the math doesn't add up for me either.
Yes.
Okay. This ultimately goes to Congress. And so they not only are asking, are these votes valid? They're having to ask which set of votes to accept, because 4 states, 3 from the South and Oregon, have submitted separate sets. Both parties, Republicans and Democrats, are refusing to concede that they didn't, win. So here's Congress going, well, which set actually counts? So when you talk about trying to figure out who has the authority and power to count electoral votes, that's where this all really crystallized. And I walk you through 100 years of American history, first of all, to get through every single time, going back to even, say, Thomas Jefferson, when there was some question about the specifics of the returns in his election, and he's the guy counting the votes as vice president, or is he counting them? Because who's doing the counting, right? Passive voice in the Constitution. So I get into all of that nitty-gritty, taking us up to 1876, where we have an outcome that leads Democratic lawyer Jeremiah Black to say, we will never have an honest election again. That's his conviction. He declares that as Congress is weighing this out. And again, I have to tell you about this because we not only came through that moment, but got to the quote-unquote golden age of the 20th century.
You also talk about kind of fake news and Benjamin Franklin. I actually was just reading about Paul Revere coming up with crazy wood carvings to depict some of the things that were happening and try to foment anti-British hatred that really were a little sketchy when it came to the truth. And apparently Benjamin Franklin did something similar.
Yes. So, what you're talking about there, we get to the Boston Massacre. Now, my special on PBS, The Unlikely Union, which you can stream right now, I tell that story. So British publications called that evening, March 5th, 1770, an unhappy disturbance in which troops defended themselves from a mob. Meanwhile, the Boston Gazette is calling it a bloody massacre of innocent lads.
This carries through. We were talking about Joseph Pulitzer during the break. I mean, we know the term yellow journalism, but as we see so much division over how people are getting their news and information, distrust in the media, this is also something that has kind of a familiar resonance in American history.
And David, here's the big takeaway. This is the work you have to do if you want to enjoy the liberties that come with a constitutional republic. That's it. So this is a burden and a privilege that's fallen on every generation of Americans. And that is what I want Americans to remember as they read Been There, Done That. So it is a hopeful story because it's a reminder that we have been through worse. We've gotten out of it. And so this isn't a Pollyanna, everything's going to be okay, but more like your doctor telling you, hey, you know what? You're not dying actually, but it is time to start exercising and eating right.
As we look at American history, I think we tend to think it's on a few great men. We're always talking about these revolutionary founding fathers, but actually, when you look at it, it was a lot of little acts by a lot of smaller Americans who made a big impact over time. How does that resonate as you look at the history of consensus, the history of what people can do when they pull together in light of a common goal, whether that's preservation of democracy or whatever they're trying to achieve?
That's what we, the people, is. And the founders aren't the ones that put themselves on that pedestal. That's one of the things that always gets at me. They were some of the first to say, guys, we messed up left, right, and center. By the way,
we had help.
And yes, and we had help. And here's an article in the Constitution on nothing but how to change it. And by the way, we're only calling this a more perfect union. We are not going to call this perfect, right? We, the people, this idea of us voting, of us participating, that's where the magic happens. They would have said that if they were here today, seated on these couches.
Let me ask you, Liza, I'll put a question to you I put to Senator Warnock, which is how do you see this 250th anniversary and intend to mark it? What is the significance of this date on our calendar, and what should we take away from the fact that we've made it 250 years?
I think there's a lot to celebrate. Look, this is the oldest large-scale, I mean, we got to put a few qualifiers in there, but the oldest large written constitution, if we exclude the state of Massachusetts, enduring, right? This republic has come a long way. And what I see as I tore through and wrote this book over the course of several years, been there, done that, I see that the American people, when push comes to shove, make the choices needed to keep us going forward. I'm excited to mark 250 years, and I believe there's 250 more to come.
All right. Professor Greg Jackson, host of History That Doesn't Suck. Thank you so much for joining us.
Come back. I'll get the fiddle.
I'll bring the guitar.
We'll make it happen.